Well, it's early in the morning, grab a cup and tune on in. Robert and Dave got that southern charm, let the laughter begin. From the morning funny to Maga Minute, ain't no better way to start your day the southern way, with a little joke and pray. We're just southern folks talking southern things, front porch swinging where the church bells rang. From Mama Said to Hum Day News, we keep it real with down home views. Sunday morning in the Word, get that gospel flow. Prayer time calls, so let's let our troubles go. Come Monday night, Mama Said is bringing the truth, and when it's night talk with Dave, man, you know it's getting loose. We're just southern folks talking southern things, stories and sports where the good times hang. From SFP News to I Remember That, we tell it like it is, and that's a fact. Got our veteran of the week, gotta show our pride. Pets of the week, bringing love worldwide. Talking paranormal, digging true crime. Southern fried stories all the dang time. So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give them a hand? So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give them a hand?
Hey folks, Dave in the AM here with the Southern Fried Podcast and the Cornbread Nation. For many weeks now, me and Rob have been telling you about our affiliation with Dubby Energy Drinks. I've been drinking some of them on the show, and I just got in today the powdered version, and this is the Pond Blom version of this. And hey, I tell you that it gives you the focus and the energy without the jitters or the crash. There's no sugars, no fillers, no artificial dyes. So get you some Dubby today. Use the promo code Southern Fried, and you'll get 10% off each and every order. Not only can you get the energy drinks, but you can also get some cool merch items. In fact, soon we're going to have a hat to show you as an example of some of those things. There's shirts and other things you can get as well as containers to mix up the powder and the water into that you can carry with you. We appreciate your support of the Southern Fried Podcast and also of Dubby Energy Drinks. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Hello, hello. Hope all are well on this Tuesday evening. It has been a giant struggle today for me, but we will get through. God bless every one of you. Thank you for your support of the Southern Fried Podcast and the Cornbread Nation. We appreciate that. Hey, Lewis. Hey, Jake. Appreciate you, brother. Y'all are awesome, and hope you've had a good day. Truly has been a horrible day for me. It's about the best thing I could put on it. This has been the highlight. Outside of being my family, it has been the highlight. The last 24 hours have been really, really tough. But we press on. Didn't come over here to share trouble, but being honest. I'm transparent. And when somebody says, "How you doing?" and you say, well, you tell them the truth. I mean, I'm a truthful person, and it has been a very tough time. Prayer's appreciated. I don't mind asking for that. In fact, I've asked people for prayer today. It's just a lot of stuff that went on that's out of our control, and we're controlling all that we can. And there's some great things going on too. It's that cosmic, fight against good and evil. And as a believer, I know the Lord Jesus will see us through. Thank you, Lewis. Yes, Jake. Me too. Be getting ready for that soon on that. It's still a surprise. Nobody knows about that but us. And yes, it will. It's going to be some difficult days as we go forward, just because of things that have happened. But we press on. I'm a fighter. If my voice sounds a little bad, I lost a tooth. I'm going to the dentist, but they can't get me in till first of next week. So if it sounds a little funny, I'm doing the best I can. So again, it's been that kind of. I'm transparent. It's been that kind of or last 24 hours. It has been that that kind of thing. So. But hey, it's therapy to come on here and be with you. And I've had plenty of family reaching out and, praying with us and supporting us with some problems with family. So we're just, we're fighters. We're getting through the best we can, and we will continue to do that. In saying that, we have a big announcement in the morning. I'm going to save that till Rob can be on. He's aware of it. We will share that news together. We have a new affiliate. And hey, Miss Elizabeth, God bless you. Hey, thanks for your help last night. Big blessing. We appreciate you. But yeah, we have a new announcement. We will not have the imagery yet. we may pull down one, and we will be. But we'll be announcing that in the morning. It's going to take a day or two to get graphics in that they're going to help us with. Or not help us, they're doing it for us, and it's we're blessed. So we would like to share new things with you. So it just came totally out of the blue. We had reached out a long time ago, and all things happen in God's time. And this truly was we were riding the high wave, and then we sort of crashed out. You ever see those people that are, they're out there riding the wave, Hawaii or off of California or wherever, they got the big wave going on their ride. They're in the pot, man. They're in the pot. The water's going on, and it looks good. And then all of a sudden they wipe out. That's the way I felt yesterday. Like I was like everything was riding, and I've never done that, nor could I. I'd kill myself. But that's the best way I could describe it. It was like a wave of it was like great news. There was some really good news that I needed to hear, and then it was like crash. And right as I said that, somebody fired up some sort of heavy fireworks or something. So I don't know what that was, but I don't know if you could hear that. Probably not, but if you did, that's what it was. I don't know what that was. Somebody's happy tonight. But yeah, we just crashed out. Today was even worse. I'll just say this. I don't really feel like going through everything again, but maybe over time. It's just a little too fresh. But I will say this: some days, due to you're in the middle of the battle. You're in the middle of the battle, and you're fighting, and your normal, logic and common sense and stuff, and you get caught in the middle of something, and you're flailing. Really, you're just trying to manage it, and you make a misstep, and I did. And I got scammed today, and it hurt. But you know what? I feel for whoever did that, because I don't want for them to happen what could happen. And I really mean that. And I sent them a message, like they care. I said, "You got me. May God have mercy on your soul. And I truly mean that. I didn't mean it bitter. I was mad at myself. And when you're in the middle of something, and I've always been able to really see the big picture, the long view, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I widen the lens out. I'm really cautious. I'm a really cautious person. It takes me a while to make a major decision because I really pray about it. I go over it. I got caught up in the middle of something due to things that's out of my control. And man, did I make a misstep and I got took. And it hurts. There's no doubt about it. It hurts. But it'll be a lesson learned. And, police reports filed. I don't think anything will happen of it, but we did file that, and we'll see what happens. So, about a year ago, right after we started the podcast, we had a scammer come at us, and we caught that one, and maybe we got a little too cocky and joking about it and everything. This time they got me, and that's the one and only time in my whole life I can remember that happening. But when you're in the middle of an emotional storm, and it has been an emotional storm, with a feeling like sometimes the only thing holding me up, but it's the greatest thing, is God's grace. I got I just lost my I didn't pay attention, and that's okay. I'll tell you. Thanks for the comments, by the way. Y'all are a blessing. It will get better. It is better. My sister come and saw me today, and she came in the studio. She'd never been in the studio. She didn't want to go on air, but she spent some time with me and Rob as we talked about talk shop. You're talking about, we were going over the new affiliate. We were going over skits and other major things that will be happening in the weeks ahead. So, I said, I'll just leave that up to God. And truly, if we all got what we deserved because of our sin, we deserve hell. It's by God's grace and His precious blood that we're not all there. And I truly do not want anyone to go there. I mean that. But I will let the Lord handle it, and I just turn it over to Him. I'm not going to be bitter. You see me, I'm joking around. I mean, it hurt, but I had to walk away and go, okay, that's you know what, devil, that's one for you. But you've lost the war. The war is already won. You got a battle. And it'll be a lesson to me to be really cautious in that. So, I'm a transparent person, and they were really good. I'll just say that they were really good, and it just a cavalcade of things that happened that made me think it was okay, and it wasn't. And me and my son, we both got that feeling at the same time that this don't sound right, and boy, it wasn't. Boom. You big dummy. So I feel a little stupid tonight, but it's okay. I can laugh at me, and it's safe that way. And you can laugh too. It's okay. I get on here and I say a lot of things, and sometimes you might know what's real, and sometimes you might not. I mean, some things I escalate for the show, and some things are true blue all the way down the line. There's times we all get mad. There's times we all get but I always, my father-in-law used to have a saying: don't ever let the truth get in front of a good story. So if you sometimes you expand things, and you know what, it's entertainment. We talk truth on here, but skits and all, we stretch it. So but that's okay. It's a good story that makes you laugh, and it's good. But in reality, which is the most amazing thing in the reality, and I'm getting older, but in the reality, I'm a very private person, very, very private. And it took my wife years and years to get me to tell her stuff. I mean, I was so private, I didn't tell my wife stuff. Meaning I didn't hide like secrets, but I wouldn't tell her how I was feeling. Like if she said, "Can you talk about it?" I would say, "Nope." And I kept it all inside, and I was that way for a long time. I was very shy, very quiet, and it wasn't that I didn't trust her or anything. It was just the way I was made. And I think, and my dad was a lot like that. And I didn't, 25 years ago, if you'd asked me how I was doing, I'd say great. And even if I was not, 25 years later, wisdom and learning how not to hold things in really better. And I'll tell you a quick story. I don't mind sharing it because I think it probably will resonate with some of you. Maybe not all of you, but some of you. And we appreciate those that are listening in tonight. This show was, by the way, I was supposed to be on the air this morning. I had to cancel that due to lots of factors. I mean, just things happened. And I wanted to be on earlier this evening. And again, factors that just kept us going. So I finally told my wife, I said, I'm going on at by 9 o'clock. I got to go on. I got to do it. I cannot stand to miss being on. But, when I was 21 years old, my best friend was murdered. And that's still, it's not an easy thing to talk about even all this time later. But it's certainly easier now than it was when I was 21. And, that's that's 39 years, 38 years ago. 38 years ago, if my math is right. 38, 39. We'll split the difference somewhere in there. Um, it was the first real trial of my life. I had lost my grandfather. I'd lost an uncle or two, or great uncle. I'd really never experienced though, because I was real little. My grandfather died, it bothered me, but I was little. I didn't understand fully. I mean, I knew what happened, but it didn't hit me like that. But at 21 years old, my best friend, who's my brother, I mean, he was like, I didn't have a brother for years, and but we were so tight, and I mean, I always say he went to the grave with things about me that only he knew and God, and vice versa. And if you, and by the way, you don't have that many friends like that, to be honest. People say they're my best friend, they're my best friend, they're my best friend. Really, you have very few. You got a lot of friends, but you might not have many best friends because that's hard. Because that's going to be less than these numbers here usually, I would think. But that's what he was to me, so much so that he was like my brother, and he was murdered. It was a domestic dispute, and it's a long story, but he was murdered. Really, only about, I don't know, 50 feet from my front door. A really, really traumatic time, and it's really hard to look back. And if anybody from his family sees this, I just say these things with all due respect, because that a lot of them have deceased themselves. There's not that many family left, honestly, but it's a time that I mean, I lived a lifetime in just 21 years us together. 21 years I could write books. I've often wanted to write the story, but I just can't. It just can't seem to. I am going to write a book or a short story, but I just can't seem to get to that. That's hard. But it's easier now than it would have been, and maybe one day before I pass from the scene, maybe I will. Uh, but anyway, what I was going to say is that when he died, I internalized everything, and I was married. My oldest son was just a little thing. I mean, a few months old. Um, he was not big at all. I'm trying to remember. I think let's see, 3 months old, 4 months old, something like that. He wasn't very old at all, and I didn't deal with that very well. I just internalized it, and I didn't. I just for months I was just in a daze. Really, I was working hard. I was there with my son and my wife, and I worked a lot. I was working. Young man, I'm just working a lot, and but it was really I was having breakdowns. And this is where you get into where counseling and all that. You got to release stuff. You just can't carry all this weight around. And I had gotten out of church. I wasn't going to church, so I wasn't. That would have helped. I wasn't doing that. And one day I was not. I was not. It's not a good day. It was just not a good day. And I don't mean like I would have never like taken myself out of this world. I've never even ever slightly thought of that. But I just my wife said to me, "Can you share? Can you talk to me about it?" And I said, "I just can't." And but I knew inside of me, I knew this was not. I couldn't just keep going down that same road. And so she says, "Well, is there somebody you can talk to?" Which at the time, I mean, we hadn't been married that long, and to her, looking back, I imagine that really it kind of hurt because, your spouse, they can share everything. I don't know what it was. It was not a trust thing. It was just me. It was just, I don't know, weird. And that day she said these words, they were very wise. And she said, You've got to talk to somebody. We can't keep going like this. You can't keep going like this. And I knew that she was right. It really hit hard. It hit all the way to my soul. And I knew she was right. And I looked at Jeremy. He's just a little thing. And I looked at him, and I knew it. I thought, look, I gotta, when someone dies, you miss them, but they're not here, and you have to move on. And by the way, Friday night we're going to be talking to the counselors about anxiety and grief. This is a great segue to that. So please tune in for half or most of the show, maybe all the show. We're going to have the counselors on. We're going to talk about anxiety and grief. And I think little did I know when I said Rob, get them on, that we were going, what was going to happen in my life. But anyway, it resonated, and I looked at my wife. I got a marriage. Looked at my child. I got my dad. I got to be here for my dad. 8 o'clock, brother. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Friday night. They'll be on. We'll show their card here in a few minutes. And they're great people, and I look forward to it. But anyway, let me finish my thought. So I made this excuse, and I think my wife knew that it was. But I said, in those days, we didn't have a garbage service. We would take our garbage to the dump, to the landfill. And I told my wife, I said, I don't know if we had any. I don't even know if I ever made it to the landfill that day, to be honest. Maybe I did. I don't remember. A long time ago. But I said, I'm going to go to the landfill. She said, you want me to go? And I said, no. She knew. And she said, okay. Well, me and Jeremy will be here when you get back. And I said, okay. And so I left. And I honestly, it's not even in my memory banks to really even remember if I went to the landfill. I could not tell you right now. I'm trying to think. I don't remember. I don't think I did. What I did do, and listen, when I say this, I don't want it to sound quirky or goofy or whatever. And everybody has opinions about it. About and listen, anybody that tells you they know exactly, come on, who knows? Because we just don't see that world. Is it possible for those that have went on to be with Jesus or wherever, is it possible to, hell, let's be honest, it's heaven and hell. Is it possible that they can hear you? And honestly, there are a few examples in the Bible of paradise. That's a whole nother discussion. There's people, they think their pets can hear them. Listen, I'm just going to let God be God, and I'm not going to jump into that one way or the other. And I'm going to get this right here real quick, because I think Lewis says, I feel Dave, 2.5 years, I lost my mom's side. It is rough, brother. It is rough. It is rough. And so I went to the cemetery. This is why I said I don't want it to sound weird, because I don't hang out. Listen, I'm an odd bird. I love to go to cemeteries and do genealogy. I could walk them all day long. I don't go to cemeteries to stand at graves and camp out or talk to graves or something. I might make a comment while I'm there, and I miss you. I do it at my mom's grave. Mom, I love you and I miss you. I might even say it internally. This day was different. This day was way different. I went there with a mission. And I don't even know if I really understood the whole mission. But the mission for me was, I got to move on. And what is moving on? For me, moving on was getting me fixed, that I could be there and not have these breakdowns in front of my wife and my child, and I was having them at work. I mean, I was just, my head was not good. And this is about 6 months later. I mean, this has been drifting on a while, Grief, by the way, and I'm not a trained counselor. I'm just a Christian who loves the Lord and loves the Bible. But I heard someone wise say one time that grieving lasts as long as it needs to last. That could be a few weeks, months, years, the rest of your life. I don't know. Grieving, I don't tell people how long they're supposed to grieve. And I never tell anybody, oh, just get over it. I don't do that. And you shouldn't do that. So anyway, I go to the cemetery, and it's just me. Obviously, nobody came with me. And, I went to the grave. I just went to the grave, went there. Still, still not fully settled in. It's been a while, but even that long. And basically, what I said with this, without saying verbatim what I said, because honestly, I may not remember it all, but I remember the main points. And the main point of what I said that day was this. And I called his name, and I was very emotional. And I said, I don't know if you can hear me or not. I mean, I don't. But I said, if you can hear me, or I said, if you can't hear me, but maybe the Lord will tell you, or, and he had told me he had been saved, when he was real little. So I believe, to this day that he received, Lord as his Savior, and I'll see him in heaven. Some of you listening may not have that belief system. Okay, that's fine. The story still works for you. We don't get hung up on that. So I told him, I said, listen, I don't know if you can hear me or the Lord can tell you, but this is what I got to say. I love you, man. I love you, and I will never, ever forget you. I could never forget you. You will always be in my thoughts. I will miss you. And thanks for being my friend. I mean, like my brother. Like, we had so many good times. And I said, but I do have to say this. And this is what I said. This is where Dave got better. And it still hurt, but it really felt like a weight lifted that day. And what I said is this: you're not here, and I can't change that. And I hope you would understand that I'm not that type of person. I'm not coming to the cemetery every day, and I haven't. I've been back, but I don't go. Man, in fact, I've been thinking about here lately about taking my grandchildren and explaining it, because I want to share who he was, and so they might not have met him, but I want them to know more about me. You kind of think that way when you get older, because you want to pass on all the memories and stuff to your family. And honestly, it just was too hard for a long time. But what I said was, I can't come here every day. I just can't do it. And I said, what I have is I have a wife and a son. And I said, I got to be there for them. And I said, I just said, I don't want this to sound bad, but I got to get busy with the business of living. And right now, I'm not doing very good at that. And my family needs me. And I just said, I hope you will understand that. And in my heart, I just felt like that communication was accepted. Can't tell you whether it was or not. Don't even know if he heard that. To this day, who knows? But I felt like that it was communicated. And that it was, when I walked away that day, to me, it was symbolic of what happens when you get saved. I mean, we're laying down the old man and we're going in the new. And for me, that day, it was laying down this guy. For me, I'm not talking about my friend, I'm talking about me. It was laying down that and burying that part of me there, so that I could go away and function as a human being in a way that was, I could do my job. I could, love my wife and love my son and future sons and daughters, or whatever was to happen. And it ended up being two sons. And when I walked away that day and I went back, and it was an emotional. I mean, you're talking about an emotional thing. And here I am, this private guy, never shares anything. And by the way, I would have never shared this those years ago. I would have never told you this. In fact, when I got home, however long I was gone, I drove around a little bit, but I got home. My wife, she just knew. Wives know. And she said, "Are you better? Or are you okay?" or something like that now. And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Good." And that was it. That was it. We didn't talk about it no more. We just got busy with the business of living. And here we are all these years later. That's, like I said, that's been 38, almost 39 years ago. And that's tough. And by the way, Lewis, that's a great comment. Your dad died in 2000, didn't grieve till 2 years later, but still today it's hard some days. Yeah. And I'll talk about that in just a second too. Well, it's hard for me. Yeah, West Virginia, so you can't even go. And and that's tough too. I think of people in the military and people that are missionaries and things like that. Sometimes they miss. Sometimes they can't get back for funerals, even for parents. It's just not possible to get out of the country in time, and that's hard too. Or someone who's in prison. I had a cousin, first cousin. He's out now, but he was in prison, and they wouldn't let him out. We tried for his grandmother, our grandmother's funeral, when she passed years later after my grandfather, and she she was a rock in her family, but they did get to call him. My aunt, who's deceased now, she was a prison guard in Missouri, and she called the prison, and they talked that lingo, and she got him to get him on the phone at least, and people were able to talk to him, his mom and dad, and other people, so he was able to be a part of it. I think they didn't let him go because they didn't have the personnel to do it. It's a bit. I mean, I forget where he was at, but it was just they just didn't have it, and that's tough. I mean, you messed up, you're in prison, and it's tough. But I tell that story to say I was so private that I didn't even tell my wife. I just couldn't. I just could not tell her what was going on with me. But I didn't tell her, but I thought I was cracking up. Like, not like losing my mind, not doing something dangerous or something stupid or like that. I was just, what it reminded me of. So you're gonna laugh, but it's okay. It reminds me of. I must have been a little Vulcan because it reminds me of the episode in Star Trek where Spock, who's a Vulcan, he's never supposed to show emotion, but he's under the influence of an alien or whatever, and he's having these breakdowns, and and his dad, they did an episode like his dad too, that Vulcan, not to they held everything in, and that's what it reminded me of, absolutely, as I was trying to lock all this stuff inside, and it just can't, you can't. And at some point it has to come out. It really does. So, that's tough, and grieving is tough. And what I was going to say, the night my dad died, I ain't been talking about death so much, but hey, it's chatting. I said Tuesday to chat with Dave. So if you're here and you got thoughts, please put them in the comments. We'll be glad to share with you and say wherever you need to say, because I think it's important, and you have your stories too. But I was just going to say the night my dad died was a very much different situation, and I get Lewis's comment here. Yeah, you do have to be tough. There is a toughness that comes with it. You toughen up. Sometimes, you may be the tough one for your family. I've heard that too. My dad always said that. He said, I have to be strong for my family. And I understand that to a point. But I think my dad, I saw when his mom died, it was one of only two times in my life that I ever saw my dad cry. I never saw my dad cry. And so I understood it because I'm a lot like him in many ways. And I had this makeup about me, and I still to this day when something big happens. Now today was weird. I mean, it was like I didn't go there, and I don't know. I think it's just the way the way things kind of dominoed and hit me today. I wasn't like really upset, but there was a lot of different things going on at the same time, and that's why I got took. But because I didn't pay attention. Normally I go into sort of a really calm mode. And while the emergency is going on or the thing, I don't have a lot of emotion about it. I just go into action. And the night my dad died, I was at work. It was what was that, New Year's Day or the day after? I'm trying to remember, because we had just went back to work. We had a skeleton crew just to start purging lines at my job, and I got the call. By the time that I called my boss, told her what was happening as I was going out the door, told the lead. Takeover. There's only like 5 or 6 people working. I'm out of here. Got on the road, got on the bypass. I was beating the ambulance to the hospital, and God spoke to me and said, your dad's with me. Prepare the family. This is exactly what I heard. prepare the family. So what? There was not a whole lot of emotion other than just, oh, like, it's like I knew it. Other people were hoping, So I went to the hospital, and I was the first one there. And let's see what, Alyssa. Yeah, yeah, you do, and somebody has to be. Some people do fall apart. They just can't. They just cannot handle it, and they really fall apart when someone dies. So anyway, I'm on the way to the hospital, and God has told me this without a doubt. I don't, people can question me. I don't care. I know what I heard. And God said, prepare the family. Those are the words. And I'm going to share the second part of that in a second, which is right on point. So I knew my dad was gone. So I got there, and I'm in the emergency room, and there's nobody there. I beat the ambulance there because they were coming from further away. And I told the lady who I was at the desk. It's the middle of the night. So I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And anyway, they come out, and she said, oh, he's not here yet. So she went back and I guess she told a doctor that I was there. So this doctor shows up. He's the ER doc, the emergency room doctor on shift. And he comes out. He says, he asked me, are you related to, and he gave me the name and everything. I said, yeah, I'm his son. And he's kind of hee-hawing around. I read his face, and I just already knew anyway because God told me. And I read his face, and he's like, can we, like, he's not here yet, but can we, like, talk? And I said, doctor, you can tell me anything you need to tell me, and it'll be okay. And he almost like breathed a sigh of relief. And he said, now listen, he said, it's just me and you. He said, your dad is in bad shape. And he sort of looked at me like, what he was hearing was like, no. He said, we're going to do all we can. I said, I know, doc, I know. And he said, I'm not promising anything. I said, don't want you to. It's okay. I got it. So he says, okay, good. He said, I'm so glad that we could talk, have this talk. He said, they'll be here. It'll be 10 minutes or 15 minutes, wherever it was. And he looks at me with this look. I'll never forget the look. And he says these words. What do you think he said? Prepare the family. I mean, I had heard that on the road, and God had said, prepare the family. And I get there, and you can say, well, that's coincidence. I don't care. I mean, I'm not saying you would say it, but I'm saying something. I don't care. They can say what they want. I know what I felt at that moment. It was just the most amazing moment. And I just said, understood. And he said, I got to get to work. I said, yes, sir. So they did. They were still working on him, but, long story short, hey, the story already. He passed. Well, I'll tell this story because I was starting to call family. Hey, I didn't tell him I'm not going to make it, but listen, this has happened. Get to the hospital. And I was getting in touch with everybody as I could. Other people have heard about it, sisters and stuff, and they're coming. I was getting my sisters and my wife and my sons, and getting them all on board with being at the hospital. And so long story short, we've all been there. It's a very hard thing, and I was called back. I know they might have walked in. I'm trying to remember. I think they walked in and said he didn't make it. And because that was a tough scene. We did all we could. I'm sorry, he just didn't make it. And so me and my he had married again, had another son, so I have a half brother, and we were asked to come back and verify personal effects. And so I did all this. I had to meet my sister, she was the last one to get there. It was tough for her. Hated that she had to hear it that way. And anyway, we had to send somebody to go wake her up. I mean, she didn't wake up. I think they had a phone off or something. But in the room afterwards, and one of my aunts says to me, and I was almost kind of like, I know people's emotions are really messed up when something like that happens. And I get it. It was almost with a tone of anger. She said, it's okay to cry. She probably wouldn't even remember saying this. And I don't mean it as a slam. I'm not even saying who. I just said an aunt. One of my aunts, one of the sisters, and said, it's okay to cry to me. And everybody in the room looked at me. And I said, I know. I said, and I will in time. So, Lewis, what you said, and for me it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And again, a little private. Except for the day of the funeral now, I did there. It was a tough day. But it really fully came, the grief and everything, 2 weeks later. So everybody cycles all that stuff different, and so there's no right or no wrong, or there's no this is you need to do something about this. It's just the way it is. It's the way we're made up. The only thing I would add to it is I don't believe nobody is tough enough on their own to fully handle it. You have to rely on something. You may think you are. And I think that's where we get, people that can't function mentally anymore, and they get in a bad place, is because it just keeps haunting them, whether that's from war, first responders, and people who have lost loved ones very, very close. And it is so very tough. I'll tell you a truly sad story in a minute. Getting back to that point about graveyards, I'll get to that in a second. Well, yeah, true. Sometimes it's hard grief when you got life going on too. And yeah, life don't stop. That was my point. Life don't stop. I got a few-month-old baby. I got a wife. We've been married, not less than 2 years. And I mean, we're trying to put a life together, and working hard, and trying to figure this thing out. And I couldn't. I was the only one working then. My wife was at home with the baby, and I got to be here. I'm a provider. I got to be here for my family. And I did cry out to God, like, God, I need help, man. I got to do something here, Miss Elizabeth, that's very tough. That is so close together. I mean, I don't even know how you really navigate that for a while, because to this day, my sisters, and listen, they're awesome, and but it has been harder on them, and I think, and I have my moments. I mean, I still miss my parents, but I know, and I have this weird thing, and I'll share it to you, and don't judge me. Weird thing, and I don't mean it in any way kind of disrespect. My sisters know, like, and women are just better anyway. I remember dates, time of the day. I mean, you remember everything about the day your baby was born. I mean, everything, and I get that. Some guys remember some of it. We don't remember most of it. It's a blur for us, and I get that. I don't mean that in any kind of way. It's just truth. A lot of guys have trouble remembering birthdays, and I'm one of those sometimes, except for the major, people. I forget a lot of birthdays. And when I sit here tonight, I just got to tell you, I know about the time of year. I can't tell you the day they died. I can't even tell the year. I think it's just the way that I cycle it to handle it. But when those dates come up, I know, I don't need to know, because when it gets close, I can always tell from them that it's a tough day. They're talking about tough days coming up. And so yeah, and see, I love you. I love you, man. It's cool. So those days are very hard, and all that. And years later now, they're still. I mean, no day comes and it's like a wipeout day, and I can't imagine 7 months apart. And I've heard of less and I've heard of more. Mine was a few years, thankfully. And the one we thought would die first didn't. She was in worse health. My dad died first, and it was just crazy. And you can't go home after their death. I mean, you can never really go home again. I said that here recently on the show. You can never really go home again because they're not there. You can go to the house, maybe, if it's still a family, but it's still not the same. You can't go home again. Home is, and then it becomes you. Like, you start thinking, okay, now I'm in their position. I'm the parent. I'm the grandparent. And you don't want to think about it, but it's like, how many years? I'm raising a granddaughter. She's she's very young, 13, and will be 13 here soon. And we've talked a lot about stuff. She's very growing up with she came to live with me when I was 50, so or 49. I think I was 49, and we've had a lot of honest discussions about a lot of things, because she likes to know the truth of the matter. And her biggest thing is always, don't lie to me. I want to know. And most things we have. And and she'll say, Papa, you don't know when you're going to die. Because, she's been saved. She's in the church. She hears the sermons. We've been open about this. And she knows her home is in heaven one day. And she knows that more likely I'll go first and she'll follow along. And she told me, she said, things like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. I love you so much. I was missing you. I said, I know, but you got Jesus. You will have him. He's a rock. And you will have other family. And it'll be hard, but it's okay. And so sometimes she'll talk to me about death, and I'll say, yeah, but I mean, that's not today. And she'll say, Papa, you don't know. She gets me on it every time. I taught her too well. She'll go, you don't know. We don't know our next breath. We're not guaranteed. And and I'll say, all right, Kaylee, you're right. She said, you're just not wanting to talk about it. I'm like, well, not really. So we got to move on. Miss Elizabeth, we knew our dad was going to die because he had cancer. Oh, it's tough. And we were helping take care of him. My mom was a shock. She had 2 massive strokes. And I was so mad at God for a long time. And that is honesty. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. God understands that. And you look in the Bible, and how many people in the Bible were mad at God? And they had to navigate that same emotion. Because that's just the way we are. We're hurt. We're so hurt. And my mom, she'd had some mini strokes, but then she had like massive strokes, maybe more than one. And it was, but she outlived my dad, and she was always the one who'd been sick, had health problems, and all that. And my wife, her dad was killed in a trucking accident, and her mom was just lost a few years ago, and it's been really tough on her. So she lost her dad when she was 13, and I look at the effects of that. Of just losing her dad when she was 13. And there's things about that I can see that he could have been a help with. And that's a lot of baggage for her to carry around. And there's other things too. But those are tough things. And we do carry around hurt and bitterness. And so when you're at a funeral or even after and you're talking to family, you gotta be a little thick-skinned, because sometimes people will vent their anger at you. And I had this happen when my grandmother had some strokes, and she only lived about 6 more months. And someone, I won't say who, you wouldn't know them, but in case they see this, I don't want to say that. And I don't, it was not a good day, but I don't hold it against them. It just was that day. But I caught a lot of things that were said to me that were hurtful when we were in the waiting room. And looking back, I just know that it hurt at the time. It hurt. Oh, it hurt. But and other people interceded, and we got past it. But I realized that it was just hurt that was spewing out, and by golly, I was just in the way. And it was really tough. It took me a long time to really navigate that. But today it doesn't bother me. I understand that she was hurting. And so yeah. Mr. Lewis says when my dad was sick for a while, fell on step and got a call. His lungs were filled with water, and my dad were fighting for it. Oh yeah. You know what? And man, that's tough I appreciate you saying that. That's not easy to share. Trust me, I know that. It means a lot that you can, because I know people that are going through this right now, and there is such a feeling of guilt because they were fighting and they didn't get to say goodbye or I love you or whatever, and that is so tough, man. My heart goes out to you, and you know this, but I would just say it again. That even though it didn't end the way you would like for it to, they know that you love them. And you know what? One thing about dying grace is this: when death comes, and if we think about it, the people we've lost, we don't really, we don't. I mean, they may pop up every once in a while. It's probably the devil. We really remember it. It really filters out, and we remember the good stuff. We really don't focus on other stuff. And once you've left this life, and the pain of just how hard it is here, you are left with. I mean, you're going to think on the good things. I believe those here and those have gone, and I just think there's that part of it, that filtration system that happens that because when we think about it, if we ever had a big fight with somebody, think about this like this. And we've all had arguments and things were said that we wished that had not been said. It might be years later. Everything's good. Sometimes you don't even remember what you fought about. Sometimes. I'm not saying every time. Sometimes you don't even remember what you fought about. It's so insignificant after all the just time. It does something. It washes some of that away. We just filter it a little bit different. There's things that my sister tell me that go on in my past that I don't even remember. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I think I just filtered it out. It just wasn't. It just was something that I pushed to the side. Maybe it's still there somewhere. I guess it's always still there, but it's not something that bothers me. Like if it was tough or something, I don't. Now there's a lot of things I do remember, and sometimes you remember stuff and you're like, oh, that's a tough memory, but you don't really think on them that much. You don't really think on. You don't really think on those things every day over time. Now, at first, it's hard. That's hard. I had well, in fact, when my best friend was murdered, there was a lot of stuff that was going on that was building up to that, and I had a level of guilt about that too, because there were some things that were going on, and I felt like I was in the middle of something that was causing him some problems. He was in the middle of something that was causing him problems. There was just a lot of stuff going on, and I just I struggled with that too. It was part of that, like and I had told he was having trouble with family. We knew that. And the last time that I talked to him, he was he was having some real trouble. I won't go into the whole story, but he came and got shotgun shells from me. He was really worried about someone. There was someone in the family who's dead now too, long dead, who was threatening. And I remember my last words to him. I was like, "Be careful. Don't take any chances." And I think I said, they're crazy. Somebody drinking and they're angry, and domestics are so tough. I mean, look what we just had happen up here. If you may not have heard this, but people in this area know about this guy that drove up from Marietta, Georgia, and he literally within, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes from where I live, but down really close, not even that far, probably 20 minutes. This guy drives up and just wipes out his I don't know if they were ex yet or estranged. I think estranged. Her dad and a family friend who's injured, a family friend, he's fighting for his life, and then killed himself. That just happened like, a few days ago. And so I had told him, I'm like, be careful, watch your back. I remember saying that, watch your back. Well, he didn't, and we get caught up in life. And it happened right on the same property. I mean, it was, they both, he didn't live there now. But the person that did it did, and he slipped up on him, and he did exactly what he said nobody thought he would do, and he did, and it was it was just hard. So whatever, and again whatever way the death comes, cancer, strokes, we kind of know it's coming or it's a surprise. It's still hard. And I remember when my best friend died. This is another thing I want to say. I was in the chapel with the mom when they announced to the mom. And it's tough. That's a tough scene. It was like 3 people in there, like mom, sister, me. There might have been one other person. I can't quite remember. I think there was. And they come in and it was hard for them to get the words out. I feel for them. People that say that doctors are cold and indifferent. There may be some of that, but I'm going to tell you, in the instances I've just told you, they were not that way. It was very hard for them, and they were trying to find a way to get the words. And I remember that night, and I was just wanting to say it. It was like my voice was screaming out from inside, just say it, just say it. But he was talking to the mom. And it hit like a ton of bricks, and she turned to me after the initial shock and everything and asked me if I would be a pallbearer. And of course it was hard, oh so hard, but of course I was going to say yes. And but anyway, that after that, more people are hearing about it and everything. And there's a neighbor, I'll never forget this. There's a neighbor, well, he's not even a neighbor, he's friends with a neighbor. He's friends with a neighbor. He knew of us, but he's friends with a neighbor. He wasn't friends with us. He's friends with a neighbor. And I didn't like the guy. Never did. I thought he was a jerk. He shows up. I don't even know how he heard. I guess it went over the police scanner or something. I don't know. I mean, when somebody gets murdered, I mean, that starts hitting the news. I mean, this is before social medias and all that. This is way back. I mean, almost 40 years ago. So he hears about this thing, and he comes out of the blue. I mean, people come out of the woodwork at funerals and anything anyway. I mean, where do these people come from? This guy shows up like he's the best, he's like the close family friend. Like, I'm here for you guys, shut up. Like, we don't even like you, like we're being cordial, but that wasn't the worst part. We're just being cordial. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're good. We don't need anything because, there's always that person. I think they're there to fleece you and try to get something out of you. And the whole time he's like, if you need anything, you let me know. This guy's never did one thing for us in his life for any of us. But now he's he's Johnny on the spot. He's going to take care of us. That was aggravating enough, but that wasn't the worst. He brings this woman with him that is drunk off of her feet. I mean, drunk. And she is making a true ASS out of herself. And she's, falling all over the mom, crying. He's, like it was her kid. She don't even know him. Doesn't know none of us. And, just drunk. And there was another, I don't remember who it was. There was somebody else with her, another friend, I think. I'm pretty sure it was another friend. And we're like, who is this person? Like, what the heck? So we took dude out in the hall. We said, you get her out of here right now. And he said, you can't talk to me like. I said, listen, bud, she's drunk. This mother's just lost her son. You get her out of here. I said, or we'll throw her out. And if you don't like it, we'll throw you out too. And he said, he got all, then he wasn't the big friend or anything, but he got her out of there. I said, you're not going to do her like that. Get that drunk woman out of here and don't come back. And they did. So, when the dad died, there's lots of people I never knew that was friends and family. And that is, I mean, there is a coolness to that. Sometimes you meet people that, you hear these stories. You're like, wow, I didn't know my dad did this, or I didn't know he worked there. Or, sometimes that you think but things that happened before you were born or you were very little, you might not know everything that happened. So you kind of hear stuff like that. And that's cool. I didn't mean to suggest it, but sometimes people come out of the woodwork that are just, I mean, they're just, should I say it, scum? I'll say it, scum. And they're not there for anybody's benefit but their own. And you got to watch them sharks because they're there to try to fleece. They're there to get something. They're there to get something. And even if it's just this self-gratifying feeling of there are some people out there. God help them. God love them, as we say in the South. They feel like I call them the professional grievers. It's like that. They hear about a funeral. They don't even know anybody. They just show up. And sometimes I've known the people that did this. They know there's a meal there, so they show up to eat. And they walk around and they grieve with everybody. I mean, they cry, I mean, real tears. Like they're like breaking down crying. And all the family, I've had this happen. I've seen this more than once. The family would be like, hey, who is that over there with Uncle so-and-so or the sister or the spouse or the kid? And you start talking and all of a sudden it comes to realization, nobody knows this person. And you're afraid to say something because, you're afraid to hurt feelings. Maybe they knew them when they weren't. So I went to people we start asking them questions. And one of them, I remember we finally said, how do you know this person? At least they were honest. And they said, oh, I don't. I just read about it in the paper. I just wanted to come tell you how sorry I am. And, that's good. I got no problem with that. But the way they made people cry more. It's my point. It was like they were going around and saying, it's okay to let it go. You just have a good cry. And they were like, it was like coaching them to grieve more. They didn't know anybody. There are some people there. Maybe it's a mental issue. I know it ain't right, but it happens. And they will go and they will grieve. And they live their life like that. I've known of people, and I've talked to people at funeral homes, and sometimes they pick up on these people and they run them off because they're there all the time, and they start saying, "Hey, wait a minute, we've seen this person like 10 times in the month. There's no way they knew that many people that died," and so they end up having to talk with them. They say, "Hey, listen, you need to move on. You're not you're not helping," because they're afraid they're going to ask for some money or whatever, and that happens too. So I've seen some weird stuff like that. I remember that scene in what was the movie? Yeah, I'm gonna buy some of my Kleenex. They're like that. I just happen to have here. What I was gonna say is that scene in what was it, Malice? Is that the name of the movie? Paul Newman is the ambulance chasing lawyer, and he finally gets the cases of all cases. But before that, he shows up at funerals and he's going up these grieving. It's horrible, but it's true. And his business is in the tank, so he's like trying to survive. So he goes up these grieving and he's like pulling out the card if you need anything. And there's that one scene they just throw him out, throw him out on his tail, like get out of here. It's true. It's true. I don't know how prevalent that is, and I don't know if it happens today. Because used to be, now funerals have changed, and we know that mostly, and here in America for sure. Funerals are quick, cost, and move on. I mean, they get those things going. Used to be those things could last a week. You would have people, what they call it, sitting up with the dead, and they would spend somebody in the family stayed 24 hours. I mean, somebody was always there the whole time, and the funeral home never closed. They would just keep it open, and people were coming at different times, and it was just part of that ceremony. That don't happen anymore. They don't allow it to happen. I mean, they're kind of getting you out there. Hey, we're fixing to close. It's we need to be moving that way. It's it's almost 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever it is. Different ones do different times, and they start getting them out of the there. And they say it's rules now, or maybe even legality now. It may be that they can't do that. Will Ferrell can clean up if you. Oh, so funny. Well, that's when people should not show up. Yeah, it's for sure. Sometimes you find a stage 5 cleaner. Oh man, you're killing me. This is good though. I need the laughter. But man, and so uh, you have a lot of different things that happen, and I've preached a lot of funerals as being a preacher. I always say I did many more funerals than weddings, and I don't know why, but that's just the way it works. And nobody's ever complained at the funeral, so uh, yeah, I got you. The movie. I need to watch that maybe. I haven't seen it, so I figured that was something out of that, but or something like it. But it's like there's a scene in All in the Family. I was my dad grew up watching that, and I watched it. And he has the cousin Oscar who dies, and that show really highlights all this stuff. The people that show up and say, "Hey, they gave us half day for funerals in the new union contract. We'll be there," drinking, and then you got the funeral director and that whole scene that he's trying to get we won't cheap, man, cheap. I'm not spending a bunch of money. I don't even like this cousin, and it's going through the ministers there, and he don't, all that. But then there's this woman that shows up, and she's going around crying and crying and crying, and she's like, "I'll pull myself together," da 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 da. And he's like, "Who are you?" She called his name, hugging his neck, weeping. He's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, third cousin on some side or something. That's what happens. It's not fun. That was a comedy, so it was funny for that. But there are people that do that. They show up. I'll tell you a couple other stories. One I heard of, and I know it's happened more. Uh, I had a friend, I still have a friend, and he had somebody that passed that he he went to church with, and they had asked him to be a part before they died. If anything ever happens, will you help with my funeral? And they had two. They had him and they had one other. And so he gets to the funeral home. Now, this is preacher to preacher talking. I'm not using names, but he told me this story. He was fired up. So he gets to the funeral home the day of the viewing. You know, if it's two, it used to be 2 days. Now they got that down to like 3 hours, and then you have a funeral. But anyway, he gets there the day before. He comes in and he's talking to everybody and everything. And this other preacher, he says, "Hey, I need to talk to you," you know. And so he figures, oh yeah, it's about the funeral and kind of how it's going to go and everything. So the guy says, and I may get some of this not exactly in the same order, but basically what he said is, "Hey, listen, I'll paraphrase it." He said, "I'm in charge here, and what you're going to do is." You're going to read the obituary, and he gave him one other thing. He said, "And I'm going to do everything else." And listen, now there is sometimes a negotiation on who's going to do what. There's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure we have our ducks in a row. In fact, the funeral home says who's doing this, because they like things to go orderly, and I do too. And so the guy says, "Do what?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm in charge here." He goes, "Oh, no, no, no. That's not how this is going to work." Uh, he said, "You can do whatever you want to do, Jack, but I'm preaching." He said, "No, we can't do two sermons, and I'm going to preach, and that'd be too long. Nobody wants to hear all that." And he goes, "You can do what you want, but I'm preaching. You preach too. I don't care, but I'm preaching this funeral. I'm giving you the eulogy, and you're not going to stop me." This guy just tried to shut him down. Went to a funeral once, and the family member come up, and we had been asked to do the funeral for someone they lived a very long life, a World War II vet, great, just an awesome Christian, loved the guy. I'd visited him many times in the nursing home before he passed. He preached. He was a preacher, and we get to the ceremony where it was a funeral, but they didn't have I think the might have been cremated. I don't remember. But we had it we actually had it in the nursing home, because that's where everybody there wanted to come that was a resident there. So we had it in like the cafeteria area, because even their little chapel area was too small, so they had it set up in there, and they did a good job with it. And the lady that works at the funeral home, I still know her. She still works there. They were awesome. She was great, but I think it was a sister or something come up, or no, actually the other preacher turned to me when I got there, and we had never met. And these things are never problems. You just, again, that negotiation, he goes, "Hey, I'm so and so, hey." And so we just negotiate, what do you, "Hey brother, what do you feel comfortable with, or what are you thinking, or whatever." And we just sit and we never said, you can't do this or whatever. But anyway, when he told me, he says, "We got a problem." He said, "We got a problem, but I've already took care of it." He said, "I just want you to know." He said, "When I got here, the family said," you're going to love this, "you can't mention Jesus's name." It's like, wait a minute. This guy was a Christian. He was in my church. I mean, he was a member there. He was a long time member. And this guy preached the gospel, and he loved Jesus. Wait a minute. And she said, "I just don't think anybody needs to hear that. It might be upsetting to those people who don't believe in Jesus. So we're just not going to mention his name." He said, "There ain't no way. No way." He said, "Ma'am, I respect you. Sorry for what you're going through." He said, "But you can't ask me as a man of God to stand up and not mention his name." He said, "I promise you it will be okay. If anybody's upset, you send them to me and the other preacher when he gets here, and we'll handle it." And she said, "Well, you sure?" He said, "Trust me, it's going to be okay." And so he told me, he said, I told her, so don't worry. And he said, "We both going to preach." He said, I just wanted you to know." And so we did. We preached her down. And everybody came up, all the residents, the family, even she came by and said it was beautiful and all that. But I was shocked, like, wait a minute. What do you mean? This is Christian. This is not, we're not in the middle of, some other faith system. These are Christians. And you're saying we can't we can't mention Jesus. Are you crazy? You know, I mean, trying to be. I mean, we wasn't saying it that way, but it was. He didn't. We just had a quiet talk about it, but it was. I'll never forget that. Like, we can't mention his name. It might be upsetting. Miss Elizabeth says my husband's funeral was all in one day, and you know, I get it. Some people, it's not even a cost thing. They prefer it that way. They don't like it to linger on. Funerals are very hard, very, very hard. And I can tell you that I know preachers. I know preachers. You may think this is crazy, but they have a hard time with funerals. They don't mind preaching them, but they can't go in the room where the body's at. They won't do it. They'll talk to them out in the hallway. They'll go to the kitchen. They don't even go to the chapel and talk to them. They can't walk in there. They can't do it. And I'm talking, these are the top people that they could fight hell by the acre. I mean, they're not, there's nothing scares them, but something about it, they just can't handle that. And they'll say, no, I don't want to go in there. And they would stay out. We all have something. Some of it is due to cost. I knew a lady that came to our church for a short time, and it was a really sad thing. She had some drug problems. She also lived in a domestic battery situation, and when she died, we weren't told what it was. The family knew. I think my pastor was told, but she was asked not to say. But I pretty much knew that she had slipped and fell into some drug use. And I think the drug use is what did it. I didn't think any less of her. That's a hard thing. Just because you're going to church, you got to fight that demon every day. Anyway, there was no money, so our church did a fundraiser to help the sister with the cost and everything. And we gave some money towards it, and we had a fundraiser to help them offset as much of it as we could because she didn't have any money. And so what they did in her case, which it really worked out well, I didn't even know you could do this, is that they rented, I guess they replace a lot of stuff, but you can, I hate to say it that way, but it's basically you rent the coffin for like 2 hours and it saves cost, you know, and it was going to be cremated anyway, but they wanted her in there to, you know, casket, I say called casket to be seen. And we had a 2 hour thing. And then, it was we didn't, that was it. There was no ceremony there. She was cremated, and then we had a celebration, and that was part of the fundraiser and all that. We had a celebration of life, if I remember right. It was something like that. But there are different, and today it's all over the place. I knew one family, they were bless their hearts, they were so poor. And hey, who has hundreds of, or even a couple of $1,000s? I mean, you can do cremations. They've went up a little bit, but I remember people doing them for, you know, the whole thing's $1,500 or $1,200 or something. I mean, anyway, I did one for a family, and my pastor was out of town, and he couldn't do it. And so he asked them, would it be okay if I did it? And they said, sure. So we did it at our church. Again, all saving costs. We did it at our church. I made up some cards and printed them out, and I got a couple ladies to come sing that knew, you know, we knew them. We didn't even know the gentleman. We were just doing it for them. And I would do that for anybody. I mean, the dead deserve a proper burial, no matter who. I'll stand on that. But they brought a picture frame, you know, the picture of him, and they brought in the urn. And the urn, I don't want to be disrespectful here, but you know, there are urns you can buy. And there is, if you can't afford like one of the nice ones, they put the ashes in. I don't know what it's made out of. It looked like hard cardboard to me. I'm not being disrespectful. That's what it was. And we did a really nice service, and they thanked us for that. It was just a handful of people, but you know, you do that. That's what churches do to try to help people. And so yeah, there's a lot of options for stuff like that. Well, you know, around here now, NC, we had the big, you know, what Noble crematory disaster that happened where people were getting back not the ashes and stuff. It was a big horrible thing that happened many years ago around here. You can look that up. Marsh crematory or whatever. And I probably shouldn't say the name, but that's what it was. And so there are people live here that were connected to the family and all that. but it was hundreds of bodies, and it just it was a hard story. It made national news, made world news in a little small rural area, but it was a hard thing. So there's a lot of people now, and I wouldn't suggest doing this, but I know people after that, their parents died, and they requested to watch the cremation. Now I talked to a guy who did that. I talked to a guy who did that because he was afraid. There was no trust. He was afraid you're not. I'm not going to be the ashes. They give the ashes. They do give them. From what I understand now, if they're somewhere at dawn, that's news to me. But he escorted them to the crematorium, and he watched. There is a window. I didn't know that. At least on this one it was, and he watched it, and he went all the way through the process. He told me later that he wished he had not done that because I don't know how you can do that when it's your dad. I'll be honest. I'm not doing that. Escorting maybe to the point, but then at that point, I would no. I don't want to be cremated anyway. But and I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying I don't. But I understand that it's become very common. Some places even encourage it because of lack of space. And there's countries that don't have a lot of land space, and so they cremate everybody or just about everybody. I think Japan's like that, don't they? I mean, I may be wrong on that. Don't get somebody get mad at me, but I think in Japan because they don't have a lot of I mean, they're on an island. I mean, they don't have so they cremate and it takes up less space. People can keep it, or even if they keep it at a place, they can put so many of them in an area that they can only put a small fraction of that if it was caskets. But there is, there's a lot of people that choose different things for different reasons. And I saw something the other day I didn't know you could do. Again, you learn stuff all the time. And I guess I just didn't think about it. They're the people that wear the necklaces with a little bit of the ashes around in a necklace. Have you seen those? I didn't know you could do that. I'll be honest, I didn't know that. I mean, how does that? I mean, again, I'm trying to not be disrespectful, and I would love to have somebody come on. We'd probably need to do that, have somebody come on, update some of this stuff for funerals and stuff like that. But I mean, they always try to. I mean, it's a business. Let's face it, it is a business. So they're doing a service, and it's a business. So they're selling you a service, and you pay a bulk sum for whatever package. I said it's a package. I mean, it really is. This is what this package will cost. You want to add stuff in, then they give you the cost. And there's a cost to a lot of little things. And so I guess and I know I've been in those rooms. I mean, they go through stuff and they say, we offer this, just letting you know, and you can do this and this. And it got a little tough for me when my mom passed. There was some stuff that was, just tough that day anyway. It's my mom anyway. But when we, I mean, if you've ever had to do that, let's face it, it's tough to make the arrangements, to walk into a casket room and pick out a casket. That was the hardest thing for me, to be honest. But and they were great. I love the people that did it. They're awesome people. But after a minute, it just got to feeling like it was like, I don't know, I felt like I was buying furniture or something like, you want some stain guard with that? We've got extra protection. We got this. I mean, because they start talking about, well, this casket it's guaranteed to be sealed for 30 years. And then you find out the horrible news about what they really do with those caskets when they put them down. That's a whole nother. We should do a program just on that. Okay, I'll send you a link. And I don't know if I've ever sent you a link. On Facebook? You mean on Facebook? Miss Elizabeth? Let me know, and or if you want to send an email to our email. I don't know how he's been sending those, so I don't know if I've done a link to you, but I'd be glad. And you said your nieces have those, email or Facebook. So just let me know, Miss Elizabeth. We'll figure it out. Be glad to. But at a point, it just became like, oh man, I just feel like it's we got this option, we got this option, and after a point, it's like, oh, okay, do whatever you want to do, sis. I mean, I just want to make sure these things were done. I want you to be happy, you know. And we were all there, and I'm like, y'all, if y'all want some of that other, y'all do it. I just, and they didn't want to go in the casket room. I mean, that was their thing. So we all had something that bothered us in Facebook. Okay. Let me get in there and send that. I'll keep talking. I didn't know I was going to get into this discussion, but I'm so glad we did. It's really interesting, and I really do want to come back and bring Rob in and talk about some of the. There's a lot of direction we could go with this, and I think it's interesting to people. It's like one of those things where people. I sent that. It's like one of those things people want to hear more, and sometimes they're like, "Oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that." And then some people go, "Well, tell me a little more." And it's really a hard thing. And I would just say, by matter of disclaimer, I would say if you can, you know, take care of all this ahead of time as much as possible, please do. It is so hard to do that in the moment. It is so hard to do that in the moment. And you know, it's something that me and my wife have talked about. You know, because we just we've talked a lot, but there's still some things we got to do. And because in the moment, those are hard decisions, and options do change. You know, options do change. Miss Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I guess I could blow this up a little bit. We look like we're way back in the. There we are.
Can you see me okay? I can
I
turn.
can see you just fine. Rob usually works the cameras and stuff, and so I'm out of practice. So,
It's okay.
uh, how are you doing tonight?
I'm well. I'm well.
Thank
It's,
you
it's
for all the comments.
You're welcome. It's kind of like you was saying earlier. This is kind of a hard week for me because this week is a year since
Oh, okay.
it's been passed.
I'm so
So
sorry.
yeah, it's that time of year. So,
Yeah.
but
And do you
when my
think that that's? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask. Do you think that it is? Do females, do they really focus on dates more than guys? I mean,
uh
I don't know. I can only think of me. I just I think it's just the way I cycle it. You know. I don't know.
um I do. I know when it's, and I think it's just something internal for me. Like I know when, you know, my mom passed in April and my dad passed in September. And so I know, those 2 months are a little hard for me
Yeah.
just simply because those 2 months, they have meaning for me.
Sure.
And now then March has meaning for me. And so that's a little hard for me. But which there's other months that are a little hard for me also because I've I'm the youngest of eight.
Okay.
I've lost two sisters and a brother.
Oh, yeah. Tough.
Yeah, through the years, it's not all been right at one time, but it's just been through the years. And when my last sister passed away, she did want to be cremated. And, we, her two daughters, honored her wishes. And they, when we went, their two daughters were fantastic about letting the sisters go with them to the funeral home. And because they were like, I know that you guys may want to have something made that may want to have some of mom's ashes. And so they did. Like we have, each of the sisters have like a little urn
Hmm.
that's about that big. It's not huge at all. That we have some of her ashes in. And both of the girls have a necklace that they carry some of her ashes in, and it is sealed. The necklaces are sealed. Nothing, they can never be opened again.
Yeah.
And then her youngest daughter has the majority of her ashes. Um, like in a really big urn.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize when someone is cremated how much ashes there are.
There's a lot. I didn't
There
realize that.
there really
It's
is.
heavy. It's a heavy thing to pick up.
Yes. And so like she wanted to be her favorite thing was the ocean. She loved the ocean. And so they spread some of her ashes in the ocean. And then they spread some of her ashes at one other place. So they let them keep out some ashes to do those two things with. But other than that, and the ashes that they put in our containers, and then the container for our brother, and that, everything else is sealed. Like I can never open the container, the little urn that I have
Yeah.
with her ashes. Um, and so, like, and I don't want this to sound morbid or anything, but when, like, when I picked up all the urns that were for my sisters and I delivered those to them. I just had it came in a little box, just a little velvet box. And, like I had it in my purse and I didn't think anything of it. I just had it in my purse and didn't get it out when I came home. And just absent-mindedly left it in there for probably a couple months, maybe. And so we went and celebrated my oldest sister's birthday in November. And we were at the restaurant and she said, God, I sure wish Camilla was here. And so what did I do? I pulled her out and set her on the table. I said, "Oh, wait a minute, she is." And I pulled her out and set her out.
That's cool. I
And
don't think I've ever heard that before. That's cool.
they just kind of looked at and we all busted out laughing.
You probably
Be-
needed that, you know?
because she would have loved that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's what.
something she would have loved. And, she was just that type of personality. And she
Awesome.
thought that would have been funny.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Let me catch a couple of chats here real quick. I thank you for
sure.
that. It's awesome. Lewis says I remind him of one of his own uncles. Well, I'm honored. Awesome. He also says hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Miss NC Native says I've seen some caskets at wakes that are so nice I couldn't help but think, dang, if I had been sleeping in that place thing all these years, he might have lived a lot longer. And then I think it would be so worried about losing a small urn or locket, I might choose to do an ashes burial at sea.
Oh, how funny.
Oh man. And good evening to Angry Conservative 1981. God bless you, and good evening to you. Howdy, Angry, and we're saying hi, and we're funny. That's a funny story. How long have they had those? Like you could do necklaces and stuff. Honestly, the reason I'm ignorant on this,
Mhm.
I've never been around a cremation. I've known of people. I've been at funerals where they did it, but my
Yes.
immediate family has never done that. So has that been something that's been out there for a long time, or is that just something that's kind of new?
I think it's fairly new. Because which she is the first family member that I've ever had that's been cremated.
Okay.
But my first sister that passed away, she was buried, but when we were there at the funeral home, I was I was already married then, but I was just looking around as her two children and my mom and dad were making the arrangements. And I don't recall seeing anything of that nature there at that time. And she's been deceased for, gosh, going on 20 years now.
Yeah. The reason I even knew it, I didn't know this until like a few days ago. I just never paid attention. My granddaughter came in with one from her mom. It was some family member. She had it, and I guess she wanted her to have it. And
Mm,
so my granddaughter said, "I've got these ashes around my neck," and I went, "You got what?" Like what?
yeah.
She said, "It's my uncle or something. Somebody." She don't even remember him, and they were explaining to her who it was, and so she wanted to do that. And I thought, I even told her, I said, I didn't know they did that. I had no
Yeah.
clue that they were doing stuff like that. So yeah, that's interesting. And again, I want to come back and have another show with this, just because there's so many parts to it. You said, uh, you're in the South, we're in the South, and it was the first family member that had been cremated. For a long time, it's been such a taboo uh, thing in the South, and
Yeah.
you'll find people on all sides of this, and uh, I don't want to take a hard stance on it. And I've had people ask me about this. There are a lot of people who are very hardcore against it, and there are
Mhm.
people who say I'm doing it. It makes sense to me, and I don't care. So it has become more accepted, I will say, in the South. Oh, and probably cost has driven a lot of that, and probably the fact that a lot of people are not going to church anymore and stuff. Just to be honest, but for a long time, I remember people in my family, there was nobody in my family would ever admit that they would ever want to do that. They would say, no way,
Mhm.
no way are you doing, you're not burning me. And so it is, again, I'm not taking a side here and I'm not judging that. I'm just saying it has become much more accepted um, for that to happen. But, you can do things like that, these things. And I didn't even know you could do smaller urns. I guess if you can do the necklace, you can do the
Yeah.
smaller ones. Where if you have, because that was going to be one of my questions when you said there's 8 of us or 9 of us or whatever. How in the world do you decide where the urn sits? I mean, that could
Yeah.
be an argument in of itself. I know families that get ripped apart at funerals anyway. It's like, I'm getting the urn, and you'd have a big fight. So that's a way to stop a lot of that, I think.
Mhm. Well, see, my dad was a veteran and we wanted to do, I begged my mother to do the military
Yeah.
burial, but, her thing was, well, if something happens to me, who gets the flag next?
Oh yeah,
Because
that's
I could
true.
see there being a very big argument over that.
I could too.
And so she wouldn't do it for that reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just stuff you have to think about, and it is true. When my dad died, there was, I think, from because he had married again, and there was some thought that I think there was thought because I could see the release when I mentioned what do I want. I was the oldest. I'm male, and to them, I guess they thought I was going to ask for a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and I only asked for two things of my dad's, and I still have them. Which I made one of them available for everybody. Two things I asked for. He wore a lot of hats. He's like me. He wore ball caps all the time. Because he was out. He liked to go out. He went out and mowed grass and stuff. So he always had a ball cap on. And I asked for. He had a. He was a Braves fan and a dog fan for sure.
Mhm.
And I said I would like to have two of his hats. And they said, "Which sure, like which ones?" I said, "If possible, a Braves hat and a dog hat." I knew he had multiples anyway, surely, and because I have a lot. I have too many hats. I got hats everywhere. But I guess I collect them a little bit. But they said sure, and there was some old. This goes back. Uh, there's some old 35. There was some old 35 millimeter film of me, my dad, and my grandpa. Which I was just a little thing. He was only 5 when I died. So I said, if you still have any of those tapes, I would like to get them take them and have them copied over to CD at one of these places that does that. I'll bring the originals back to you, and I'll get enough copies for all the kids and the spouse. And they
Mm.
were like, sure. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you don't want to keep it. I said, no, I don't want to keep it. It's that belongs to his wife, and I just want to make a copy. And I took it and did that. It cost me, it wasn't really that bad. It was $100 something, and I was able to get several copies. There wasn't a whole lot there, but there was enough. What I wanted was there, so I got what I wanted. So those things can be really tough, but I've worked a lot of funerals in different ways, and some go. I mean, they're all hard, and some go good, some go rough, and of course, I've been through it as a family member, having to go through and make arrangements or help to make arrangements. It's just, I think for me, take as much of that off your kids as you can,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just have everything set up, because I wouldn't want to think that my kids divided over that and weren't talking to each other or something. And I've seen that happen where siblings won't talk to each other anymore.
Well, I was very fortunate. The two things I wanted of my dad's, I was able to get before he ever got sick. And, you know, when he was in high school, he made my grandmother a table. And when she passed away, he brought it back home from Oklahoma. And, gosh, probably mm, 15 years into my marriage, I had asked him one day, I said, Dad, do you care if I have this table? And he let me have it. And then my dad was a preacher, and he was getting ready to get a new Bible. And I asked him if I could have his old one that he preached out of. And he
Oh,
let me
cool.
have it.
Yeah.
And I still have both of them. And
I
those
have,
two mean more to me than anything else that I could have ever got
oh,
from.
yeah, absolutely. I've told my kids, listen, I got multiple Bibles. Just, there's a Bible for all of you,
Yeah.
just take one, and everybody gets one. Even there's probably enough for the grandkids to have them too. I have different sizes, different things, and I told them, listen, split the tools down the middle. One of
Yeah.
them's more mechanical anyway, but I said, make sure that y'all just split them. There's things you're not going to need that he would need, and y'all do that. I don't have like a garage full or anything, but that's things guys want, tools and
Yeah.
stuff. And my wife wouldn't want. She don't want the screwdrivers and the ratchets or nothing like that. So
Oh gosh, she's crazy. I'd take all that.
some would. I remember we used to do these prizes at work for safety, which
Mm,
really you probably shouldn't do that. OSHA doesn't want you to do that, but at the time we were doing these things. And anyway, we were ordering things out off Amazon, and so there was a toolkit that was ordered, Craftsman, a little set. This lady come to pick it up, and no, actually, I think it was a Dremel set. It was a Dremel set, and I said, oh, your husband's going to enjoy that. And she said, husband, nothing. This is mine. She goes,
yeah.
I'm the one that builds things around my house. I build, I design stuff. It's all me. My husband, he's a cook. I do the building.
Hey, I have a electric drill. I have a sander. I have several different tools, and yes, I love my tools. Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's a very hard, and it doesn't matter the culture. That's a human emotion, to be separated from someone, for however long that is.
Mhm.
That is the finality of it. It hits every culture hard. And there was a time in my life, and believe it or not, I don't know, because I've always, I'm service oriented. I was, especially when I got involved with the church and everything.
Yeah.
And there was a short time that I thought that I might want to be a funeral director.
Ooh,
And I even looked into schools, and but it's like a 2 year commitment, and
really?
you got to, it's a lot, or at least the ones I looked at, to be certified and get all these things. And I decided not to.
Yeah.
And but there was a time that I thought about doing it. but
Mm,
I'm glad I didn't.
no.
I like dealing with people. I don't think I would have enjoyed dealing with the body. I
Yeah.
just don't think that I would have enjoyed that. So I think it was more my service part of my heart,
Yeah.
like, but it was not really, once I really thought about it, I'm like, I don't know that I really want to do that, you know.
Yeah. I don't say as I blame you. I don't think I could have done that.
I was on jury duty one time, and there was a funeral director on in the jury pool for
Mm,
to be selected for jury duties, and the funeral director was there's the ladies loved this guy because they wanted to know what really goes on behind the scenes, but they didn't really want to know. They'd say, "Oh, I don't want to hear no more. Stop, stop. Tell me more." And the things they do to prepare a
ye
body.
yes.
And I won't repeat them all. Some might get hurt or offended at that. Maybe we'll do that as a premium only show one night. We're fixing to do some premium only shows. Maybe that'll be a good one. But to have somebody and talk about that. But there are things they do, and it's just the way it is. And from the putting
Well,
on the makeup and the fixing the hair and things
yeah.
they do to flush the body of the fluids. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a lot. There's a lot of legal things that have to happen. There's things they have to do, and some people are fascinated by that, but at the same time, they're kind of geeked out. They don't really want to hear that. But
They wanna know, but they don't wanna know.
the older I get, the more I want people to pass away if they're suffering, especially if they're a Christian. Yeah, I think there's, when
Yes.
nobody wants to see somebody linger on, and I understand that. It is so hard to watch, and you say, especially with a Christian, absolutely, because you know where they're going. And at some point, there's no medicine that can take away the worst of the worst cancer, the pain of that. They
No.
just can't. They can keep you knocked out, but there's at some point that hurt can be so bad they just scream. I mean, and so they just give you they really just the drugs they just take you, I mean, you just get weak. And it's a horrible thing, but it's hard to watch people. It's two things for me. I got a call one day, uh, and yeah, there was a guy. He'd had a rough night. He had cancer, had lung cancer, which is one of the worst things you can have. And he called me and he said, "Listen," and he said, "I ain't always lived my life as I should have as a Christian because I'm telling you, I have been born again. I'm saved." But he said, I don't want you to think bad of me." I said, "I'm not doubting that." And I've had this happen more than once. And he said, "But last night was scary." He said, "I didn't think I was going to make it through." He said,
Mm,
I couldn't breathe. I was gasping for air, which is, I got to be honest with you, this is even hard for me to talk about because it's one of those fears that I have that I can't
yeah.
breathe. And I'm sorry if this hurts anybody. I'm not trying because I know this is hard. This happened to your family. And I'm going to be very brief here. I just want to say the spiritual part. And he said, "I just want you to pray with me. And I just want to be sure. I'm not doubting." But he said, when you're facing death, he said, I think it just make me feel better. And I said, "I don't have a problem with that. Actually, it's fine." And we got there. I just he was laying in his hospital bed, and I just got down there with him, and he made sure of where he, and he prayed. He said, "I'll pray. I just want you to be here and pray with me." And we did, and he died that night. He didn't
Mm,
make it through another night, and that was tough. And I had another gentleman, same thing, cancer. It was a different kind of cancer, and we met several times. He said, he said, I just want to, I want my wife to hear this, and I want to hear it, and I know where I'm going, but could you just come pray with me?" And I was like, "Sure, absolutely." So I'd come and we would sit and have cake and coffee, and then he would talk about what he was feeling, and then I would give some scriptures, and we would always end on prayer. And I think we met three times, and then he passed, and then we went to the funeral home. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people just, to me, cancer, it's a horrible thing, but cancer can be a good thing if somebody's not ready. The cancer, if it's long, it gives them a little time to think about where they're going, you
yeah.
know, where they stand with God, and that's okay. So in that way, it can be okay. Uh, and so it is the hardest thing, and I've always said and I heard it said, I didn't come up with it, that we don't. we don't fear death because we know what we're doing as a Christian. We don't fear death. What we fear, and it's true, is the process of death.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody want to. I think several things here you can add in, please. The Nobody wants to be a burden on anybody. I don't think any of us want to be a burden to our kids or anybody. Nobody wants to linger on for months or years and have that pain, like Angry Conservative was talking about, to be hurting and suffering and all that.
Right.
Um, and we have a strong constitution of life. We want to live. Our bodies want to live, and it's hard for the body to let go. And sometimes that is a resolution. I remember um, people that prayed. The person that was near death but was hanging on, they needed their kids to say it was okay because kids were saying, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." And finally, through conversation, it was kind of like set offline, like, I think they're holding on for you.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go for you, but they're ready to go. They really want to go because they're tired, but they're holding on for you. And that's a hard conversation, but I've seen people walk in the room and say, it's okay. It hurts, but it's okay. And they would be gone with a matter of hours, sometimes less than 2 hours.
When Daddy was dying, all everybody was there. All the kids were there. My nieces, a couple of the nephews were there, and um they called me at work and they told me that he had not talked to anybody that day, that his oxygen level had dropped, and um I had went and I called them. Oh, called the office and said, "Hey, I gotta go," because we were back in school and I was teaching in Murray County at that time. And I told them, I said, I gotta go. They called me and my dad's not doing well. And they feel like I need to come on to the house. So I went on over, and when lots of people are there, it gets a little loud.
Yeah.
And um, I went straight in and went to Daddy, and I squatted down to him because he was in a hospital bed. And I talked to him. I said, "Hey, Daddy," I said, "I hear you ain't talking to nobody today." And he didn't have to talk to me. It was fine. I knew he could hear me. And I told him, I said, "It's okay." I said, "I wouldn't talk to none of these people either." I said, "They're too loud." And 'cause I'm just like my daddy. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just like my daddy. And I was a daddy's girl.
Amen.
And I told him, I said, "Daddy," I said, "do you want me to go in here and tell all these people to leave so you can rest?" And I said, "I'll do it in a heartbeat." I said, "I'll go tell them I'll go home." I said, "But Daddy," I said, "listen." I said, "I love you." I said, "I'll do whatever you want to." And he cracked his eyes open. He looked at me. He said, "I just want him to be quiet." And he said, "And I love you too." he said, and so I walked in that kitchen and the dining room. I said, "Look," I said, "if y'all want to be loud, go to a restaurant or go to somebody else's house." I said,
Yeah.
"Daddy wants y'all shut up." He said, "How do you know?" One of my sisters did. I said, "He just told me." They said, "He hadn't talked to nobody today." I said, "Because he didn't have nobody here he wanted to talk to until I came." And they were all so mad. And I said, "Y'all are too loud. He wants to sleep."
Yeah.
I said, "He just wants y'all to be quiet. Y'all are too loud." And
Amen.
I told him later on that evening, I said, "Daddy," I said, "I know you're tired."
Yeah.
And I said, "If you're ready to go, Daddy," I said, "it's okay." I said, "You can go, Daddy." I said, "We'll take care of Mama."
Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was that night or the next night is when he passed.
Yeah.
But I think that's what he was waiting on, is to know that we would take care of Mama.
I had an aunt, salt of the earth. Her husband died years ago before this with a heart attack, leaving a revival meeting,
Mm,
and she had heart problems, and she didn't drive the bus, but she worked on a special ed disabled kids kind of bus, as a
yeah.
helper, and she was still working. But she had a couple of kids that she was praying for, as parents do, and we get in prayer circle, and she would always mention these kids, and
Yeah.
that she was asking God for them to be saved before she passed on. And you could tell she was, there was nothing major going on, but well, she'd had a couple of issues health wise, but she looked tired. She looked really tired. And I told my pastor said, and he was right. He said, she's hanging on for the kids. She don't
Mm,
really even realize it maybe, but she is hanging on for the kids. And I'll never forget it. We had a prayer circle, and she come in the prayer circle, and she always asked prayer. And she said, "Listen," she said, "I'm always praying for my kids, and I got two kids. I'm not sure where they stand with God, and I want to be saved." But she said, "I want to change that prayer tonight." She goes, "I still want to be saved," but she said, "For me, I don't know if I'm gonna live long enough to see that happen." But it's okay because I'm leaving it in God's hands, and He can handle that much better than I can. And she said, "I
mm-hmm.
think I've been carrying around this weight of this." And she said, I'm tired. I just can't carry that anymore. And so I've already prayed about it. And I'm just asking y'all to pray for me, my family, and all that. And we did. And it was like a day or two later, because that was like a Sunday night. This was like a day or two later, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't remember. Uh, she didn't report for work, and the police had to go break in, and she had a massive coronary getting ready for work and died. And
Oh,
that was the last church service that she had went to, and she basically was saying that I released this to God. I can't carry that anymore. I got to let it
yeah.
go. And she had just, I don't think she felt like she was going to die in 2 days, but it was like, okay, I'm ready whenever,
Yeah.
and she went, and we told her children that, like at the house after it happened, before the service and everything. We said, listen, your mom was praying for you guys all the time, and she loves you and everything, because they're upset and they're angry, and why couldn't it be longer and everything. So we told them, listen, we think you need to know this, is that she kind of to a place in her heart, and she cast this burden on the Lord, and she said, I'm ready, whatever happens, however long it is. That's what she said, I am ready. I said, so really, God answered her prayer. And now, and a couple of one of them didn't like hearing it. Now he later got right with God, but he was angry that day. He was angry at God. You mentioned, being angry, and he was angry, and I understand that he was angry. And
Yeah.
he said, he said a couple of things there. He was very angry, and I didn't take him personal. He didn't direct it at us, but he was pretty sharp. Things he said, like, tongued, and and he was mad at the church, and he said that day, well, my dad had health problems, but let the church need anything, boy, he'd get up and get his shoes on and go. And I said, that's right, that's the way he was geared. He and I said, I know that probably hurt you at times, that he left you as family to go, but that was his mission, and he was
Mm,
always he was in bad health. He'd breathe hard, but he was the hardest worker. I said, you may have missed him, and you may have been hurt by that, but I said, for us, it meant everything, because
mm,
he was ministering unto us, and that's what he was mad about. He goes, yeah, and you got to see my dad more than I did. I said, well, not really. I said, 2 or 3 times a week. I said, he was there, but I said, but you know what? That's I said, you had to share your dad, and I understand that you shared your dad. Whatever, but maybe if he had just came to that church, he could have been around him more.
mhm.
That's another way to look at it too. So
He could have got up and went with his daddy.
yeah, he could have got up and went. So, um, but he got, things got better later, absolutely. These are very strong discussions, and I so appreciate you coming up. I'm gonna be off here by 11. I know you got to get up early, but we'll pray for you. I know those kind of times are hard, and it is the strangest feeling. One day, I remember after my parents passed, I don't remember how long, and I thought, I'm the leader of my family.
Yeah.
Like it's like, for me and my kid, I'm not talking about all the sisters and everything, even though they look at me as, the older brother and all that. But grandpa's gone.
Mm,
Grandma's gone. They're looking at me now. I mean, I am the lead of this family. I am the patriarch. And I'm that person that, that they look to for wisdom. And I said, it's a weird position. I didn't realize, I didn't even think about it. God removed them. Now He's placed me in that position, and I'll be there until He takes me. So, and
yeah.
now I'm ministering to grandchildren, and my granddaughter says stuff like, "Don't leave me." I'll never forget one day. She don't talk about it as much anymore. She went through a period of time where she really was worried that I was going to pass, and I get that because when you've been separated from someone and you don't even really remember it, but it's still a part of you, and you really bond, and
Yeah.
you're afraid they're going to leave you, and it's a deep inside. She can't even really understand it always, but fully. But she said she called me at work one day, uh, and she got a little older. She called me, and I shared this in safety meetings even. And she called me at work one day, and she said, "Papa, are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." And she says, "Well, listen, I want you to be careful." She goes, "I want you to come home now." And she said this. She said, "I need you."
Hmm.
And that hit like a ton of bricks. And I share that with people when because I taught safety classes, electrical, lockout classes and stuff like that. And I for a long time I ended with that. I would tell people, listen, this is what my granddaughter told me, and you've got family at home that needs you, and
Yes.
so don't do stupid stuff. It ain't worth it. Nobody. I mean, accidents can happen. You can get hit
Hmm.
by a car. There's a lot of things that happen, but don't don't do stupid stuff. You got family at home that needs you. They need you for as long as you can be here. And that, especially the formative years when those kids are growing up, it is you can survive it, but it's still like you said. You were a daddy's girl. I couldn't imagine. And how old were you when your dad passed? I'm not asking your age. I'm just asking like
Oh,
how
it
old.
don't matter. Mom and Daddy's been gone for 10 years now, so I was 42.
42. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine like my wife dying, her dad dying at 13. She was 13, and I always thought about that. What changed for her?
Yeah.
What did she miss? And her mom was great, awesome, but the dad has things that gives, especially girls. I mean, girls they really lock on to dad. Dad's he's that hero. He's that strength.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that they're looking at for a future husband. I mean, they don't even realize it. It's just they look at that a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
And I've always thought about that, and I always wondered. And I asked her, and I said, "Would your dad have liked me?" And she said, "Well, I don't know." He said, She said, "My dad was a very private person, which I have been. I mentioned that earlier in the show. But she said, when you talked about your dad, he sounded like a hoot. The way he said things, I could just see him popping off and saying things. It cracks me up.
Mm.
She said her dad, when if somebody come over he didn't like, he'd just go in his bedroom.
Oh, how funny.
He'd just go to the bedroom. It was just the way he
I
was.
give them a hard time.
So I always thought if he'd been alive and I'd came over and we were dating, would he have went to the bedroom? And there's no way I can answer the question. Um, I want to think he would have,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Because, I look at a young me then, and golly, you mature and you learn so much. And I look back and I have that cringe moment. I think some of the things, how I must have looked to her family. When we met, it was not the best of times. My mom and dad had divorced. We were going through a really hard time. I mean, I think my wife felt sorry. I think she always loved me. I mean, I think she felt sorry for him when she saw me. It was like the mother part of her coming out, like, "You're too skinny. I gotta fatten you up." No, well, she did a good job of that. And so she was bringing me in and making all these meals for me, and they hooked me in. Mom and daughter, they hooked me big time. And I was coming over these big meals, and she was getting me things and buying me gifts and taking care of me. And
They
no,
just
that
real
wasn't me, dude. Maybe the backwards hat. Maybe the backwards hat. Sometimes I might have done that. I never. My dad would have killed me. He never would have let me do that, so I didn't do that. I battled that with one of my sons. He wanted to have his sag a little bit, but I was. My wife said I look. She said if she used to say this about me. She said I gotta fatten you up. She said if a big gust of wind come up, it just blow you away. And
oh,
I can't. It's hard for me to imagine me being that thin, but I was always playing sports, very athletic. I just ate on the go, and I was real thin. I was 6'1", but when she met me, I was about probably no more than 175, 180 pounds.
oh
I
wow.
was very thin. And when we really started dating a lot, like that's when she met me, she'd fat me up some. I remember when I was 195 and I was going, I'm going to have to lose some weight. And she said, oh no, you need to put on another 20 pounds. You need to be about 220 or something, And I'm like, well, we blew past that. I was like, it's your fault. No, you're good, man. You know what? I look back and I remember the one night that I cringe at. It started out as you know how it is. She's stubborn. I'm stubborn. We had been on a date, and I don't know. It was the male chivalry part of me, I guess. Uh, she had bought something that was $5. This is so stupid. It's the most you know golly, I look back and I hate this, but because I realized it at the moment how it must have looked, and I cringed at the moment, and then looking back, I was like, oh god. So I said I was going to give her the money back, and we were having this playful game. She said, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am." She'd say, "No, you're not." And I say, "Listen, guy pays the whole way. I'm giving it back." And she'd say, "No, I'm not taking it." So it's just a fluke. She gets out of the car and she goes towards the house, and her mom and her stepdad, they never married, but and they're both deceased now. But they were coming up the walkway, and she runs in the house like, no, I'm going in the house. And so I run up to it and I said, "Hey, listen, will y'all do me a favor?" And I said, "Will you give her this $5 bill?" And I'll never forget the father-in-law. He looks at me and he said, he just shook his head and he goes, "Why don't you just give it to her tomorrow?" And I was like, oh, this just looks so stupid. I mean, I realized at that moment, I was like, this is so dumb. So I went home and I was thinking, golly, I look like such a geek doing that. And I know they had to be thinking, God, this guy is a loser, man. What is $5 bill? What's he arguing about? Dave with a pack of six, his t-shirt sleeve. That wasn't me either. To be honest, it was Dave probably with we'll say a beverage. I did imbibe with some back in those days. I did later on cigars. Not then. And actually, the father-in-law got me kind of on the cigars. We used to hang out a lot, and we kind of run around and did a lot of stuff. Dave, Dave's like, wait a second, I'm not that old. Oh, you look back and you're like, oh, I can't believe some of the things that we did when we were young. But now they're kind of funny memories and stuff. But I always think about that because when and for dads it's hard when the boyfriend comes over, and the dads are always like giving them that look, and they have the little man to man, like, you better be nice, you better have her back on time, if you do anything to hurt my baby, it's on, and that's that, whether you say it or it's just implied. Dads do that. I mean, it's just, they do that. And and I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's told me his father-in-law was in bad health and he might not make it much longer. And his the mother-in-law was great and everything. He said, me and the dad didn't get along at first. He said he never really accepted me until after the wedding and stuff. Every time he come over, he gave him the look. And he said they got married, and 20 minutes after the ceremony, the dad comes up to him and said, "Okay, buddy, I want my grandkids." He goes, "Man, we only been married 20 minutes." So dad was like demanding, father-in-law was demanding grandchildren already. But he said the grandchildren are the key. Once the grandkids come, they're like, they're all good with your marriage. Oh, thank, we got a grandkid now, So if you can do that pretty quick, all that other stuff goes away.
Well, listen, this is a good one. When Bruce first proposed to me, he we were in the process of building a home, and he had imbibed in some spirits, and so he had got down on one knee and he was a little tipsy, and he asked me, and I looked at him, I said, "Did you ask my dad's permission?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, I will, but you got to ask for my hand in marriage from my daddy."
Yeah.
He said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes, there's a heart attack." He said, "Okay, I guess I will." And Dave, how long have you lived up in that area?
Oh, most of the time over,
Okay, my,
outside of 2 years, I've always lived in this area. So about 58 years.
okay, my daddy was the manager at Long John Silver's in Dalton for 21 years.
Okay.
So he went over there and got him some lunch one day and asked if he'd come out and sit with him. And that's when he asked him.
What'd your dad say?
He told him he had a long talk with him, but he told him yes.
There's a great scene in the movie Shenandoah with Jimmy Stewart. It's a movie about the war between the states and everything. But
Yes.
the boy, one of the daughters is, the guy's dating her, and he comes and he's explaining everything to the younger boy. He said the pickers are here. The young girls are wrapping up, and now the pickers are coming. He said, I'm gonna miss her, and he's like, what do you mean you're gonna miss her? He said, well, she's gonna be going away. And the young boy ain't getting it. So. But anyway, that talk they have in there, and the boy's so nervous. He's a man. I say boy, and I remember. I'll never forget. I loved how he put that in the movie. He said, he said, I want to marry your daughter, and I want to ask for her hand in marriage, and your approval and all that. But he said, well, let me ask you something. As he lights a big cigar, said, do you like her? And he said, like her, sir? He said, well, I love her. He said, I didn't want to ask you. He said, do you like her? Oh, I like her. He said, well, it's important that you like her. He said, love, that's something one day it's just going to hit you, that you really do love her. He said, I think you like her. One day you're really going to love her. But if you don't like her, you ain't never going to love her. That's a great talk. I love that scene. That's a tough movie to watch because people die and everything. And
Yeah.
it's from a man's perspective who's really anti-war. I get it's an anti-war movie, but those things did happen, and they were hard. And I love that, though. That's one of those scenes where they come in and they ask. The other one that's funny to me is Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yes.
And they're bouncing them back and forth, Well, go ask your mom, and go ask your dad, your pa. And they finally just walk in on them after, well, we'll just get them when they're into bed. That's the only time we can get them together. And of course, they didn't want to, but they said okay. And the dad shows up in the back of the room as just in time to say he gives her away. And she was a daddy's girl, and I believe they portrayed all that right. I believe that movie was right on with all that. And
Yeah.
then, when he died, and her husband was he was a hard man, to live with. But she had a hard time, obviously, and his strength, I think, was probably a help to her, even though sometimes he was a hard man. He was not a
Mm.
faithful husband at times, and I think he probably hit on her a little bit. He was a tough guy. He drank. But that's a great movie that shows that scene. And she married so young, which happened a lot in the South
Yeah.
because a lot of times, out of just really honestly, they not it's hard to feed everybody,
Yeah.
and you
You had such
needed.
families.
Yeah,
And
big families, and they married off. You
yeah.
know. Lewis says, when I was younger, Dad said I accepted you if you passed the test. If the dog liked me, he accepted me dating his daughter before the dog. I have said this a long time. I use my wife as the measuring stick on people, and in this way. And if and my wife likes everybody. She don't meet. What I mean by that is, if somebody don't like my wife, that tells me I don't need nothing to do with them, because she's such
Yeah.
a kind heart and loves everybody. She's a hugger, always smiling. I mean, she's got me in the door a lot of times because they look at me, a sterner guy, and I think of myself as a people person, but I don't have her skill. She's just loved by everybody. Everywhere I go, they say, "Oh, I just love your wife to death, and she's so sweet," and they never say that about me, but she goes to these little stores. She's got her favorite little spots to hang out, and they'll say, "You're." See, I'm now known as her husband, so you're Lynn's husband, right? So I'm not Dave, I'm Lynn's husband, and I'll say, "Yeah," and they'll say, "Oh, I love her. I thought you were her husband," and they almost want to give you, I think, like, she's so sweet, and they almost give you that look like you better be good to her. You better be good to her, because I love her. They don't love me, but they love her. You better
You're
be
not
good.
good to her. You've had it,
I've
man.
had it. I'd have people all over town, and I'll tell a little secret. It's not a secret here, but when we met in a bar, which is not the place I would say go meet, but her family ran a bar, and not her mom, but aunt, and she'd go there and cook and clean, and it was just a hangout for her. And so when I dated her, and this is not only did I have the family dynamic, I had all these people in the bar, and this bar was a tough bar. It was a place where truck drivers hung out and biker gang members, and I mean, just tough. It was a true rock and country kind of bar, and there were people, when they found out that we were dating, there was more than one that came to me and said, "Hey, and they say something like this. They come and they say, 'Hey, I just want you to know I love that little girl right there with all my heart. I don't know what I'd do if anything happened to her.'" And they'd cut their eyes at me as they said that, like, and I'd say, "Yes, sir. Yes." And they'd say, "You understand the mission, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." And they'd say, "All right, boy," and they'd slap me on the shoulder. "All right." And they'd walk off, because they looked at her like a little sister or something.
Yeah.
And they took care of her, even though she was in this rough bar. If anybody had done anything to her, they'd have killed them. I mean, that's just the way it was. And it's a lot of stories. I could do stories from that bar, but it was funny years later, and it still sounds funny to me. So, like, years later, we're in church and we're going around, and it always happens that couples are going to talk about stuff like, "Well, how did y'all meet?" And
Yeah.
we would always look at each other like, because they would say, "We were at a missions conference. We were at a revival service. We were at a youth choir singing," or something. It was always something spiritual. It was like doves falling from heaven, and God had shined the light on their lives to come together in this perfect union. And they would get to me, "Well, Dave, how did you and Lynn meet?" And we'd look at each other like, "Golly." I'd say, "Well, if we told you, you wouldn't believe it." And they'd say, "Well, what?" And we'd say, "Here it goes." We'd say, "We met at a bar." And then it was like, "Huh? A bar?" What?
Real
So,
interesting. We met at a
so
bar.
yeah. So Kaylee, the granddaughter who lives with us, she's heard this story. So Kaylee loves to do this. So we go somewhere, and she'll initiate that. She'll say, "Hey, tell them how y'all met." And I'll look at her and I'll be like, "Will you shut up?" And she's like, "Well, that was a long time ago. They want to know." And she'll just tell them they met in a bar.
That's so funny.
And they'll look at us and we're like, "It's true."
Oh my gosh.
They
That's
said that as they were picking their teeth with a 10-inch Bowie knife. And
Yeah.
brother, everything you said tonight, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. They had them on their sides. They probably had a weapon down because they all wore like those little vests, leather vests, and there was a gun there somewhere. And I had to pass muster with all of these guys before we really were like, it was like, okay. Like, they would say, what's your intentions? I'd say, well, I love her. Well, you gonna marry her? They just I said, yes, we've talked about marriage. We're gonna get married. Okay. Well, all right. Well, that's what we want to see. And do you work? Do you have a job? I mean, it's like I had like 30 dads asking me, so it was like all the guys that were regulars, plus her family at home. I had all these people, looking at me like, because she was like a conduit. She was like a center of her family for the sunshine that she brings and everything. Everybody loved her to death. And it was like, I was like this evil monster that came in to take her away. And so when I talked to her, this is where it really took a turn. When I talked to her about, you probably need to not work at a bar. It's before we got married. We were dating. I said, you probably need to leave because you don't make a lot of money here. It's dangerous. And I just sort of dropped the hints out there a few times. And I guess she talked to them about it. Like, well, David thinks I shouldn't work here. Oh my gosh, did they all hate my guts?
Oh, I bet.
Oh my gosh. And then, so she left there and became a maid, which is hard work, bless her heart. But it was at least a little safer to be a maid. She worked at a Kroger for a while. And then, we got married. She didn't work for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I just worked. And then she went out and got her own job. She wanted to work. But I'll never, those days were interesting to me. We met, I mean, we knew people. She had, my wife as people in her family, they come up the rough side of the mountain. We'll just say it that way. They grew up rough. I mean, they grew up fighting rough. And I'm talking about extended people they knew that were considered family, not related. There was another bar, and she took me to meet this guy. And this place is legendary. It's not there anymore. It's up in Hamilton County. It's like you're going out towards Helltown. And do you know where the State Patrol the Tennessee State Patrol barracks is there as you're leaving Tiftonia and going out? There used to be a bar up there, and I can't think of the name of it right now. Let me just say, that was one of those bars where there was blood on the floor probably every night. And the floor in this place, I walked in at one time. It was open, but not at night. I wouldn't have walked in there at night, I'll be honest with you. She said, I want you to meet this guy. He's like a family friend, or he's like an uncle to me or something, This is a place that had sawdust on the floor. And the tables were tree trunks that had been cut. I mean, this was a true rock'em sock'em, knife out kind of place. And I talked to police officers that had to go pull people out of there, and they told me, and they were big dudes. They said we never went with less than 7 cops in a place. That place was rough. And so we walk in there, and she's like, "Hey, this is my. I don't know if we were married by then or not. We might have been. This is my husband." And they're looking at me and sizing me up, giving me the whole look over, And, I was like, yeah, okay, we might not need to stay here too long, because they just give me that evil eye, that like, who are you, And I never went back, but I can't remember it's Brown's Tavern, I believe it was called. Brown's Tavern. Let me tell you, there was a lot of places like that around Chattanooga, but that was a rough place. Brown's Tavern. Wow. There ain't no telling how many people they carried out of there over the course of its existence. And Old Man Brown, or whatever his name was, I don't know if it was, I think it was his name, but anyway, I'm sure he was packing a gun in his overalls, but they didn't play up there. But yeah, it's funny when you think back all the stuff that you meet people, and and she just had some family, and I was like, I'm thinking, am I going to get hurt here? I'm a nice guy, I'm a nice guy, But when I got her to quit that job, they were mad at me for a while, but they got over it. They got over it, and we've got some great memories, and a lot of those folks are deceased now, and it's sad.
Yeah.
But they when we tell people the stories, our story is not the Cinderella story. There's nothing about my story that is like something like you write the perfect novel. It's not. It's like we've had all these hard experiences, and it's like she would have never met me if her dad hadn't have died. Matter of fact, that's one of the things. They moved, and the state, if you're up in Tiftonia, the the exit there off the 24, they used to live there. They made them move because of that. So that happened, and her dad died. They decided to move out of the area, and that's how we met. They moved into, and I worked with a guy. He was a Marine, ex-Marine, and he went to that bar. And she would have never worked in her. I say her dad because she would have never worked in a bar if her dad had been living.
Yeah.
Mom didn't like it. Dad would have never okayed it. So that wouldn't have happened. And the fact she moved into the area where I live, and we put all these pieces together. It's just amazing how God worked all this out. So we still say God brought us together just by way of a bar. Oh, I've enjoyed talking to you, Miss Elizabeth. All the people in the chat.
I have you too.
We probably need to get into bed, and we both got to work. But thank you so much. Prayers for you. I know it's a tough time. We will do this again because I think this is an interesting subject, and I think we're only scratching the surface, and you bring so much to the table, and you kind of thanks for being a part of the Southern Fried Podcast. You're awesome. And thanks to NC Native, Lewis, anybody else I missed, everybody in Instagram. There's quite a few in there. And anybody that I just can't see you on the screen, you're a blessing to us. In the morning, we'll be back early, bright and early. Big announcement in the morning for the morning show. And we'll announce it tomorrow night as well. And then we'll have a lot of things going forward about it. Thank you, NC. And hey, y'all come back and share too. We want to hear your stories. That's one of the things SFP has always been about, you telling your story. And it's not just about us. We got them, but y'all got stories too. Thank you, Miss Elizabeth, for sharing what I know. It's not an easy thing to talk about, and that's those last moments with your dad. That's special. We are privileged and honored for you to share that with us tonight. Have a great day at school tomorrow.
Thank
Do
you.
y'all have in-service? I think some of the kids around here got in-service on Friday.
We
y'all
do.
have that?
Yeah.
Is that like a state thing? So the whole state?
I'm not sure.
But I heard some of the kids talking about it. So you only got, 2 days left, so that's good.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Have a great night, everybody. We love you. We'll take care. I'm going to play some music on the way out and run a couple of ads. Miss Elizabeth, you have a great, great night. And
Thank you, Dave. I hope your week gets better and you're in my thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. I need them. It's been rough, and this show has really helped, to be honest. I've kind of got my thoughts away from all that. It's really tough.
Good.
I got a kid in trouble, and anybody that's ever went through that, it's not easy. And I let myself get scammed today. God, I'm so mad at myself about that. But that's okay. The devil's a liar, and he's going to get his. And
yes,
they were working for their father, the devil. And
yeah,
okay. God will restore unto me much more than I lost, and it's all right. We're okay. It just hurts to know that I allowed myself to walk into that and get took like that. And NC says, thank you, Elizabeth, for your stories as well. And
you're welcome.
So, folks, we'll see you soon. Again, Miss Elizabeth's got to go. I'm going to hang around for just a few minutes and let the music play. And we got a couple of songs. We got some new ones, too, we're going to play. And so I'm going to drop us down and head out. Miss Elizabeth, good night.
Good night.
All right.
Well, it's early in the morning, grab a cup and tune on in. Robert and Dave got that southern charm, let the laughter begin. From the morning funny to MAGA minute, ain't no better way to start your day the southern way, with a little joke and pray. We're just southern folks talking southern things, front porch swinging where the church bells rang. From Mama Said to Hump Day News, we keep it real with down home views. Sunday morning in the Word, get that gospel flow. Prayer time calls, so let's let our troubles go. Come Monday night, Mama Said is bringing the truth. And when it's night talk with Dave, man, you know it's getting loose. We're just southern folks talking southern things, stories and sports where the good times hang. From SFP News to I Remember That, We tell it like it is, and that's a fact. Got our veteran of the week, gotta show our pride. Pets of the week, bringing love worldwide. Talking paranormal, digging true crime. Southern Fried Stories all the dang time. So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that Southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give 'em a hand? Yes, Robert and Dave, y'all. Southern Fried, talking wide, live shows, we keep it tight. SFP, bring the heat, every day and every night. We talk Southern things, boots and rings, front porch rocking while the rooster sing. From the morning prayer to the evening chat, if you ain't tuned in, where you at? We keep it real, we keep it right. Southern folks talking all day and night. Wake up early with that morning funny, coffee in hand, sky's kinda sunny. Dave in the AM, talking about the day, mag a minute, devotion, hey, we don't play. Mondays, mama says she's speaking wise. Hump day news, y'all better recognize. Fridays, prayer live, hands to the sky. Sunday morning in the word testify. We talk Southern things, boots and rings, front porch rocking while the rooster sing. From the morning prayer to the evening chat, if you ain't tuned in, where you at? We keep it real, we keep it right. Southern folks talking all day and night. Tuesday night, it's Night Talk Deep. Dave's got stories that'll cut you deep. Front porch talking past the tea. Gossip about town and who's who seat. Veteran of the week, salute and stand. Pets of the week, yeah, we love that clan. Recorded talks from crime to ghosts. We cover it all, yeah, we do the most. So hit that link, don't miss a beat. SFP's where the South folks meet. Laughter, prayer, or tales so bold. Southern humor with a heart of gold. We talk Southern things, boots and rings, front porch rocking while the rooster sang. From the morning prayer to the evening chat, if you ain't tuned in, where you at? We keep it real, we keep it right. Southern folks talking all day and night. So subscribe, tune in, grab a chair. Robert and Dave, y'all know we're there. From Southern Fried Tales to prayerful days, we bring that Southern fire in every way. Mama said there would be days like this when Dave and Rob start the show. There is bound to be some good times had by those who remember what Mama said. Mama said is the name of the game, and what Mama says is what Mama gets from the SFP studios. Mama is right and always right. We hold our flags high as we march to the tune of her music, because Mama said is the name of the game. On Monday nights, sure we know what to do and what to say, because we love our mamas, and that's the fact, Jack. Mama said is the name
his side. A shepherd watched the stars go by, with hands of grace and heart so pure. He bore the weight we could not endure. Oh, Jesus Christ, the morning light, you banish shadows from the night. With mercy vast as oceans roar, forever King, forevermore. A crown of thorns he wore for us, through pain he walked without disgust. In every tear a love so deep, he wakes the heart that dares to sleep. Oh, Jesus Christ, the morning light, you banish shadows from the night. With mercy vast as oceans roar, forever King, forevermore. A crown of thorns he wore for us, through pain he walked without disgust. In every tear a love so deep, he wakes the heart that dares to sleep. Oh, Jesus Christ, the morning light, you banish shadows from the night. With mercy vast as oceans roar, forever King, forevermore. Through stormy skies and valleys low, his voice like whispers softly flow. A guiding hand, a lantern's glow. The shepherd leads where hope will grow. Oh, Jesus Christ, the morning light, you banish shadows from the night. With mercy vast as oceans roar, forever King, forevermore.